Okay, so here we are with Jessie Inchauspé, author of Glucose Revolution. We have her book right here. And before we dive into what it took to put this together, Jessie, I want to ask if you can share on behalf of yourself and the audience, for the audience, how did we get here, like on this sofa? Yeah, like on this sofa, I am in the middle of my living room. So I think what happened is that about 4 months ago, I sent you a text because we had recorded a podcast last year and I just loved the atmosphere. And I think the text said something like, "Hey, Andes, I have this mad idea. Would you be up for it?" I would like to make a very special podcast with you where we dive into the behind the scenes of the book. Like, I wanted to dive into this stuff that no other podcast is going to talk about. What it took for me to sit down at my computer and write this thing, like how it felt, how long it took. And I really wanted you to interview me because you are amazing and it just felt right. I will tell you what that the podcast that we did was so much fun that I felt very inspired to publish it first, even though it is the fifth I recorded. And whenever I record a podcast today, I hope that it sort of aligns with the kind of dynamic that we shared because it was definitely very packed with science, but also just very organic, casual. It was a fun way to interact and discuss that kind of scientific material. The first thing that I want to ask you about this book, tell me about making science sexy and what Revolution is all about. Yeah, I think making science sexy is kind of what I am here to do because there is so much incredible science in this book that has come out of so many teams across the world. And through my Instagram and through this book, I want to make it not only accessible, but kind of exciting and trendy and fashionable because A, I find that fun and I know how to do it. And I think B, it gets people interested. Yeah. And so that is what I tried to do with the Instagram. And I think this book is a bit more like chic. It is a bit toned down. I mean, you see the cover. It is like, it feels very mature to me. When I think about you, I think about the Instagram filter that you made, you know, and it does feel very mature. I think originally, you told me that originally the title was going to be Glucose, How to Be a Glucose Goddess. Yeah, yeah. So we had a totally different take on that. Yeah, so we had a lot of back and forth with the amazing, publishers that I was lucky to work with on this book. And of course, coming at it from the Instagram, I was like, this is just going to be like the Instagram and its theme. Yeah, it is going to be pink and funny, and I am going to write it in a kind of blog style way. But I realize that is not at all what you need in a book because I want this book to get into the hands of people who have never seen my Instagram. Yeah, and so you have to make it into something that stands on its own. It is not just a continuation, but it is kind of an evolution in a different channel for the same message, right? Yeah, and returning to making science sexy, yeah, we share that passion because I think that it is us doing our part to do the research justice and really put it in the hands of what we call citizen scientists. You have to make it sexy, you have to make it exciting. Otherwise, who wants to know about glucose? Who cares to see the graphs? Who cares about glucose spikes, about glucose variability, about the influence that it can have on your mood? And yes. So, and actually, to that point, so in the book, I talk about at the beginning the birth of this whole movement and of my work and of the Instagram. And when I first learned about glucose and all those scientific studies, I started showing my friends the papers. I was like, hey, look at this amazing clinical trial. Like, you should care about your glucose levels, eat your food in the right order. And nobody cared. Yeah, and so I was like, there is a challenge here. Is this before the Instagram or this is before the Instagram? This is like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And so that is when I figured out I needed to illustrate the science with my data to make it approachable and interesting to people. I could not just show them the studies. I am a translator. Like, look at how this actually makes sense for me. Yes, and this is as it can make just as much sense for you. Yeah. And also visually making it into something that is visually compelling and appealing, and you just get the message in a second. That is really my contribution to the field. Well, there was a sentence that I wanted to discuss with you here. I think it is like one of the first few sentences of the introduction in short and actually highlighted it. So I will show the people tuning in right there in short. Do you know what the last thing you ate did to your body and mind? Can we discuss that? Absolutely. Can you tell us what that means? So this sentence is really interesting because 2.5 years ago, before I even conceived of the Instagram, I was kind of in the throes of discovering the glucose science, and I felt so passionately that people had to know about this. I started a progress diary, and I recommend this to anybody who is embarking on a journey or a project. So I just made a note in my Evernote. You can make it anywhere. And every month I would just sit down and write like 5 sentences about how things were going because now when I look back on it, it is really motivating to see how far I have come. But the first entry in that progress diary is I am in Austin with my dad and my sister. I really feel like I should do this glucose thing. And then I said, idea for pitch. Do you know what? The last thing you ate did to your body and mind. Wow, that was really kind of the original question I wanted people to ask themselves and I wanted to answer for people. And so now the fact that it is the fifth sentence made its way, it made its way to, it is the first introduction, the fifth sentence in the introduction. And I just find that amazing because it really shows me that from the beginning I had the same vision and I had the same thing I wanted to solve for people. This whole thing came about because I kept seeing people who had diabetes or other conditions and who were sick, and I kept meeting them and they were really disheartened and just felt sad and felt powerless, yet they were eating things that were making their conditions worse and they did not know. And this is what motivates me to this day is thinking of these people who do not know what the food they are eating is doing to themselves. And it is making them sicker and they cannot get out of it. And this is why I do what I do. And so anyway, the fact that the vision has remained the same and the motivation has remained the same is really beautiful to me. And I am in awe. I think it is special. And I too am in awe because it is like you have these original texts. Like a lot of people will embark on like a pitch like that one sentence. And there is like these new iterations, like you kept the original text, you did it justice. And now it made its way to the introduction of this incredible book. Yeah, and let me ask you something. What else do you feel about your original take on this glucose thing? What else do you think from back then really resonates with you when you read this now? Because I know that you have read this now hundreds of times. You read the whole thing in 3 hours, you were telling me. So what else about this sort of takes you back to those first few versions of maybe pitches and such? I would have to say the first chapter, and the first chapter is about my story and how I got to this place, and that has been, my story as a human being since I was 19. So wherever I went in my journey to try to understand my body, whether it was doing my master's in biochemistry, whether it was working in the field of genetics, or then embarking on the glucose journey, it was always about how do I reconnect to my body? Because as you know, when I was 19, I broke my back and I suffered immensely, physically, mentally. It was a really terrible accident and it has been very hard to deal with. But it is the reason that I am here today. So I think for me, that is a really special thing to bring through. And that has always been very top of mind for me. There was a word that you used to describe what this sort of felt like. It was like an out-of-body experience when we were having a conversation about this over coffee a little bit ago. What was that word? Splitting. Okay, splitting. So after I broke my back physically, I was fine. Like after 2 months, you are 19, you break your back, you get a bunch of surgery and new metal work, but really physically you are fine. Mentally, I started experiencing this very, very scary phenomenon that I ended up calling feeling split. And it sort of feels like you leave your body, you cannot locate your sense of self. You are terrified of just being alive. To me, being alive was the scariest thing I could imagine. The image that I used to sort of try to get people to feel that thing is imagine you are really scared of spiders, like really scared of spiders, okay? And somebody comes to your bedroom at night while you are sleeping, takes a living, like big Australian tarantula. Is that what they are called? And just glues it to your forehead. The tarantula is alive, okay? And then you wake up and there is this thing on your forehead. You cannot take it off. You cannot feel like yes. And that is what I felt about just existing just living. I was like, why do I exist? Why am I here? What the bloody hell is happening? Why do I have a body? What is this in the mirror that I see when I look? Like the whole experience of just being a human living was your reality terrifying? And so was that because of the injury itself or everything surrounding the injury? The trauma of being hospitalized, of your family, sort of feeling stressed for you? Like, what was it that put you in that? I think it was a bunch of stuff. But maybe the way I think about it now, because I have done a lot of work to understand it and make sure it does not happen because it bloody sucks. I think what happened is that after I broke my back, I had to wait for 2 weeks before the surgery. So I lay in a hospital bed for 2 weeks, and I knew that at the end of the 2 weeks, they were going to open my body from the back, from the side, take my organs out, take the vertebrae out, put like drill stuff into my spine. My lung might get perforated. I was really scared I was going to die, and I did not know how to process the stress. The stress was in my body, but I had no education around, for example, when you feel stressed, one of the easiest things you can do is just start shaking, and you get the stress out of your body. I do that all the time now, or there was nobody there to help me make sense of it, or sort of maybe make a ceremony around it, or just help me process. You had to process as a young individual in a hospital for 2 weeks before it even happened, just thinking like, what could happen? Yes. And the fear, I remember being on the hospital bed, being brought into the operating room, and this anesthetist like tell me, okay, count down from 5. And I was that was it. So 2 weeks to a countdown. Yeah. And I was like, I am going to fucking die. I was like, if I wake up, it is a miracle. It is just terrible stuff. And I think also being young and being somebody who did not want to be a bother to people, I did not really express the fear I was experiencing. So I kept it all inside. I did not like cry or scream or like make art to bring it out. I completely internalized it. Yeah, I was actually apologizing for the whole thing. I was like, Mom, I am so sorry I broke my back. Oh my God, first thing you see is you see your parents are terrified. I mean, I have been in a similar position before, and I also felt like it was my fault. Yeah, and then also being in a hospital setting, you feel even sicker than you are. I want to ask you, do you think there is anything about this experience that perhaps someone who is suffering with the symptoms that you're trying to help them, handle, do you think there is a similar sort of suffering or sort of disconnection from the body that occurs? And what kind of role do you think taking on these lifestyle habits and being aware of your body plays a role in making that connection essentially unsplit? Yeah, absolutely. I think most of us walk around being split. Like we have cravings. We do not know why. We feel really tired in the afternoon. We do not know why we wake up. We do not feel well. We do not know why we stop having our period. We do not know why we are hungry. We do not know why we put on weight. We do not know why, there is an epidemic of disconnection from the symptoms your body is trying to tell you. And in the book, I talk about this concept that your body is speaking to you all the time. When I was splitting, that was my body speaking to me and being like, girl, something is wrong. Please fix this. And I think we all get messages all the time, but it takes education and it takes a bit of work and curiosity to untangle them and not see symptoms as something you just medicate, but see symptoms as something that is information, right? And so when you start understanding how your glucose levels impact so tremendously, how you feel at every instant, you are like, oh, I want a biscuit right now because this morning I had a sweet breakfast. I get it, bud. Sorry, I will do better tomorrow, And it becomes this conversation. Wow, I really like that. It is symptoms are not problems, they are information. Yeah, what do you think are some of the most classic symptoms that people ignore? Like if you could think about maybe someone who's picking up this book for the first time, maybe they see that it is an interesting subject, they know a little bit about glucose, maybe it can influence them, but what would you say for that person? Classic symptoms, they can rethink hunger cravings, sleepiness, poor energy levels. Those are the basic big ones. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And let me ask you, when did you begin to approach this for yourself, for your personal glucose, from having experienced that injury to now getting really understanding your glucose was in depth? What was that kind of journey like? Took 10 years. Took 10 years and a couple of degrees? Yeah. And a couple of degrees, yeah, in curiosity. And so that is what I'm hoping to share. This is like everything I know and more. And it is sort of your one stop shop to reconnecting with your body, reversing your symptoms, and just feeling amazing. And let me ask you, you did not originally set out to write a book. I understand that there was an agent involved who inspired you and pushed you. Yeah. What was that like? And did, because I do not want to leave this all be. I do not want to leave the conversation about your personal history just yet, but I want to understand, are there any symptoms or maybe traumas that came back as you embarked on this kind of project? Or maybe even when this agent asked you originally to get this kind of work going? Okay, so I will tell you the story. So I quit my job, and it was 2 years ago, December 2019, and I wanted to do the glucose thing full time. So I started the Instagram and I worked on it for 6 months. And it went really well. I had like 20,000 followers, and people were really excited about the whole thing. But I had hit sort of a bit of a lull. I was like, why am I doing this? And actually, in my progress diary, the entry says something like, I need to figure out why I'm doing this, or like, I need to figure out what to do next. I was kind of confused, and then crazy stuff happened. So I went to Paris because I wanted to go home for a holiday, and I was planning on going there for 2 weeks. I get to France and I was going to tell my friends, I do not know about this glucose thing. Like, maybe I am just going to go and be a musician or something. And in the same week, two crazy things happened. So first, my now agent, Susanna Leah, reached out to me because she had seen my Instagram and she thought that there was a book here. I had never thought about writing a book before, but never, 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 never. No, I felt like a book, just your personal diary, sort of progress book. Yeah, but like a book. Like a book is serious stuff. Like it is a serious thing. You handed this to me. I just want to say, for the people tuning in, I am the first person to receive this book. Yeah, you handed this to me and I was like, Jessie, you wrote a goddamn, I know it is crazy. And so to me, the concept of a book was, I never even thought, what a thing I dreamt of, never. And so I met with her and it was clear that I had to do it. And then the next day I get can I ask you what was like that aha moment in your conversation where you were like, okay, you know what? Fine. Like I am going to do this. Well, as soon as she told me I want to meet you to write a book, like a surge of energy came through me and I was like, this is it. It is like the recognition of, yes, if this person sees this, then it must. And she's a legit agent, like she's a legit person. She is like a big name in France and US, etc. So it was like, of course, not a moment of hesitation. And then the universe confirmed this whole thing to me. The next day, I got a call from my flatmate in San Francisco, and she says, Jessie, the house is burning. Wait, like burning? Yeah, like burning. So the house I was living in burnt to the ground the next day. No, I am not kidding. So in that same week, I am like, okay, I guess I am rethinking my entire life. I guess San Francisco is no longer where I'm going to be living. I am so sorry. I had no idea. And I guess I am writing a book now. So I was like, okay. And what is interesting is that I did not process anything. I was like, yeah, great. House burned down, no problem, whatever. I did not feel anything. I was just like, book, let us do the book. So I stayed in Paris and I just like, the gears had shifted. And now you are like, okay, this is starting to make sense. The agent, like things were coming together. And now it was very clear and just was like, okay, great. Yes. 100%, I am going to write a book. It is going to help these people that, are sick and sad, but do not know that their food is hurting them. Like, this is going to be so good. And so I met with her and I said, yes, of course, like immediately signed with her. And then the house burned down and I was like, okay, I guess I am writing the proposal because you write a proposal first and then you go and pitch it to publishers. Yeah, so then in the summer, I just took 2 months and I was writing the proposal for the book. And it was so fun. Like, I had the best time, good time writing the book, the proposal of the book. Hold on, the proposal of the book. So this is the first 2 months. So I wrote a 40-page document with 3 sample chapters. The sample table of contents, everything changed, by the way, from the proposal to the final version. And then my agents and I went to pitch the book. And so we started with US publishers and it went really well. And I found this amazing editor at Simon and Schuster, whom I loved and connected with, and she ended up preempting the book. And so the day we signed with her, October the 1st, so 3 months after I had gotten back to Paris, then kind of nightmares happened. I did not expect this to happen at all, but I started not feeling very well and like crying all the time, having 3 a.m. panic attacks. And I was just sort of like, whoa, something is happening. I started to get kind of depressed and really anxious. And then the bloody splitting came back from my accident. Wow, the same symptom, the exact same feeling, same thing, same thing. And I know it really well, right? So I know what it is. And so in October, it came back expecting that sort of delayed, like, what is going to happen? And that sort of countdown, I did not know why it was happening. I just was like, oh, I guess I am freaking splitting again. Like, this sucks. And it is a horrible feeling. And just my mental health, like, completely spiraled downwards really drastically. Like, from amazing summer writing this proposal, I am going to be an author. Like, this is so exciting, to just like complete chaos and darkness and feeling probably as bad as I had felt the year after my accident. Wow. Yes. So, to your question about like trauma coming back, I did not, it was weird because now looking back a year and a half after, I am like, obviously, this happened because the book was causing this stress that my body was not processing. Same thing as during the accident, but when I was in it, I was clueless. I thought maybe it was because of the house in San Francisco. It just, this really confusing, how do you feel that actually sitting down to write the book itself, how did you proceed with this kind of trauma? Did it come up again as you wrote the book? And I mean, throughout the entire, because this was, remind me, this is after the proposal or during like pitching the proposal. Yes. So we signed with the US publishers and then I started writing the full book. And then during the beginning of the writing, we then pitched to many other countries. So we then got UK, Germany, France. But this is the first proposal? Then yes, but just one proposal that you pitched to all countries. It is the same one I see. Okay, and so when you started to write the book itself, how did that feel finally? And did this come back up? And if it did, how did you, it stayed with me the whole time. It stayed with me until this June, like 6 months ago. And did you feel like anything about it motivated you? Was it all kind of negative thoughts, feelings, emotions tied to this? No, it is interesting. It was a bit of like, there was one part of my brain that was really not okay. Like I was really anxious and really sad and really like splitting a lot, really scared to be alone. And then there was this immense light of like, hell, there is this book and I am so goddamn proud of it. And it is like the best thing I have ever made and it is going to help people. And I feel so in my purpose. Yeah. So it was such a weird like yin and yang thing happening. So I was going to say there has to be some light and dark, but you cannot write a book if you do not have any light or any creative power, you know. So when I was writing the book, I actually felt the best. It was kind of an escape in a way. When I was writing, I did not feel all this pain and mental stuff, but yeah, it was a crazy year. And let me ask you, as a fellow content creator, I have yet to write my own book, but I know that when we write a lot of our content, we like write a paragraph, another paragraph, and then we like switch them up and like do this. And what did you write first? And how much of this did you actually switch around? Oh yeah, great question. So first, what I did after the proposal was accepted is that I spent 2 weeks just reading scientific papers. Okay, I was like, I know some stuff, but I need to know like way more. Yeah, so I just did a lot of research for 2 weeks and I created this massive document that explored everything from like how glucose is even created in the world to all the diseases that we know are connected to glucose levels to all the hacks that I knew about and new hacks that are in the book. So I had this monster Google Doc, I think of 150 pages with just references and, abstracts and just made this whole thing crazy, crazy thing. And then I took cards, like little post-it cards notes. And I was like, okay, I guess I have to write the bloody chapters like strings and put them together, put pictures of they were actually on the ground. I think detective scene. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is all the stuff I want to say. Yeah. And how do I arrange this whole thing? Because this book it has a lot of interesting stuff in it. And I really wanted to go back to the beginning of like how glucose exists, what it does in our bodies. So the very first few chapters are about that. And so I just put these pieces of paper on the floor and just stared at them for a few days and rearranged them and being like, how do I make all this flow? And so then I wrote the first version of the whole book. And then what happens is that you send the first version of what is called the manuscript to your editors. And I thought, I was like, okay, I wrote the book now, like going to go on holiday. No problem. Actually, a whole new thing starts. It is so funny because I know nothing about the book industry. And so I said yes to this project without knowing anything about what was going to happen. Scenes. Yeah, and you were just like a puppet for like the rest of the process. Okay, I guess let us do this agent. And now you are like, all right, well, by the way, there is like all these different steps. Exactly. And so the next step is I sent it to my editors, and I was working both with my US and UK editors at the same time, and they reviewed the book, and it took them 2 months, I think, or a month and a half or something. And then they sent me back the manuscript, and we had to move a lot of stuff around, everything around. Okay, not everything, just like a few main things, but they really liked it. So I was like, oh, yes. And then once I rearranged it and sent it back, then we started the line editing process, which is literally line by line, the grammar, how you say this particular idea so it flows properly, and what is the involvement on your behalf and on their behalf. Are you as involved as they are in the editing process? Or are they, okay, yeah, absolutely. Well, it is like a conversation. It is like, imagine you are making a piece of art with someone, you are talking, so we would leave comments and questions and notes and edits, and I was so amazed at their talent. And like editors, I mean, that is a crazy job. Yeah, and they are so good at it. So now the book is just so much better than the first manuscript. Even though the manuscript was still good, it is like a whole other level. And so line by line, we went and moved the words around and made this and that. And you have so much work. I cannot even explain it. Yeah, is crazy. I cannot even imagine what that entails. Just working with a group of people to dissect every word that you have taken hours upon hours to like perfect. And they are like, no, we have to go step by step by step by step by step. And now, I had been alone in this whole glucose journey for a long time, and just seeing the word and the message elevated by these amazing professionals was so rewarding. I loved getting their edits back. I was like, this is so much better. Well, because now you have a team of talented individuals believing in your mission, which as you do, and now they are collaborating to bring your art forth to the world. It was amazing, and I had no ego in the whole process because I was just like, I am writing a book. You were like humbled by the whole thing, and just I was like, please back by change, whatever you think kind of recognition that you got. Yeah, yeah. And since I had not this idea of writing a book for real, I think if I had wanted to write a book since I was a child, I would have gone into the process being much more like, no, this is how we are going to do. This is what I am going to write. But I was just so shocked about the whole thing happening that I really wanted all the feedback, and I love feedback. I think it is such a gift. And so I just took everything. I was like, yes, more, let us fix this. Let us make this better. And so now, I mean, I still wrote it, it is still me. It is still my message, my words, my tone, but it is just like this little imperceptible amazingness that was thanks to my editors. And let me ask you, rather, what was your favorite part about writing the book? Beyond, for me, it seems like the recognition and how humbled you were by these people coming together to make this happen must have been an amazing feeling. Amazing. Knowing that you have now the capacity to bring this forth to so many people. Reaching so many people, not just with the book itself, but the content in the book that makes the science accessible. But beyond that, because I feel like that is, for me, again, it is a science content creator. What would have been the most exciting? What was your favorite thing about writing the actual book? Is it a chapter? Is it an anecdote? Is it Is it a collaboration between yourself and some other scientists? Like, what was the most exciting about putting this together? Oh, there is so many ones that come to mind. So I want to say a few. So first, I think learning all the stuff that I learned while writing this book was amazing because I did not realize how much I did not know. Okay, like I thought I knew about glucose, but like I did not know nearly as much as I know now. And I think all the human funny aspects of it. So I introduced this plant called Jerry at the beginning, chapter 2, Meet Jerry. There is this, I explained how plants create glucose. Okay, yeah. And let me read you like the first paragraph of this chapter. So Meet Jerry, how plants create glucose. Plants do not get enough credit, to be fair. They rarely advertise their experts. They cannot. But if the cactus on your desk could speak, it would impress you with the tale of its ancestors, after all. They were the ones who invented the most important biological process on Earth, photosynthesis. So the whole book is a story. It is fun. It is relatable. It is funny. I use images like to explain how spikes harm your body. I use 3 images: glucose spikes, trains, toast, and Tetris. And so that was the most fun for me, like translating the science into something that is so entertaining. I love that. And at the beginning, I had way too many jokes and stuff. So my editors were like, okay, let us cut it down on the jokes and the images. So that was want to do the science justice, I think, because I was confusing people with all the images. Okay, so how long did it take to take the manuscript and put this together? Okay, so timeline, July 2019, I signed with my agent. October the 1st, I get my US deal, wrote the book in 3 months, which is insane. But my agent was like, yeah, you can do it in 3 months. So she put on the proposal delivery date, January 2021. So I was like, okay. So I wrote the book in 3 months, then we edited for 6 months, and then starting this June, we started looking at covers, etc. So we got this, which is called the Galley, the very first advanced copy of the book. I just got this last week, so now we are in December 2021. And it is coming out in April 2022. Wow. Okay. And let me ask you, if you now that you are here, we have this book. If you can reflect back, how do you think that this has helped you as a scientist and overall as a content creator now that you have had to tackle this kind of work? How does content creation feel now? It feels different because this book led me to read and research much more than I had before. I mean, I knew a lot about glucose, but now I really know a lot. So I feel like I am a much better scientist. I feel like my content is much stronger because I can refer to all of the amazing papers that I read and that are in the back of this book. I think it makes me a more like well-rounded person. And as you write a book, you have to really clarify your thinking about specific topics. So each page of the book was an exercise. And like, what do I actually think about this? What is the message around artificial sweeteners, around cravings, around fertility, around like eating for pleasure versus for health? So I had to clarify all these thoughts that now are much easier for me to share, right? So essentially, seeing the big picture of glucose force, putting yourself you have to study it to this depth, and then coming up with your own unique ways to describe it. Now you have that sort of under your belt. And now when you approach smaller chunks of content elsewhere, you know exactly how you are going to bring your wealth of knowledge to specify, yeah, this is like 1,000 hours of thinking, wow, and reflection, and it inspires 1,000 hours of reading and reflection, hopefully. That reads it, yeah. Because the themes in this book and something that I took away from your podcast and having experienced your content after a couple years is every time I sit down and eat, I practice these concepts, and I really do mean that. So do you think that the average person with no scientific knowledge, I am a physiologist, do you think that this is for them? Or do you think this is for more of a scientific crowd? No, this book is for anyone. You do not even need to, like, what I mean is an average person interested in science, or it can be absolutely anyone with absolutely no background in science. You did not finish high school. You can read this. Okay. It is really for anybody. a child, somebody who has never taken a biology class in their life. Like anybody can understand this. I break it down all the way to the beginning, all the way to how plants create glucose, and then I bring you on this journey and you will understand everything. It is for everyone, no scientific knowledge required at all. How much the serious question, yeah, how much apple cider vinegar did you consume between the time you started this book? And by the time maybe like 4 or 5 bottles, like the big bottles, the bottles, do we need to consume apple cider vinegar before for every meal? No, you do not need to do anything. It depends on, how many symptoms you are feeling, how much better you want to feel, and your level of, desire to you can, like, the studies show that if you do, it is going to help your body a lot, but you do not have to going on a date. You had a little flask, actually. So I took my sister out for dinner for her 10,000th day birthday, which I thought was really cute. 10,000th day birthday. Uh-huh. So I realized a few years ago that there was such a thing as 10,000 days birthday. No, it is like 27 or something. So you are due for it, maths. Yeah. So I took her out for dinner for that. And she had brought these really cute little apple cider vinegar flasks. Yeah. Wow. Hmm. Okay. And can you take us through what glucose goddess is today? What does that mean to you when you think, because something that you repeated time and time again, which I kind of laughed to myself, you said this glucose thing, like this is obviously more than a glucose thing, right? Uh how do you see yourself now as the glucose goddess versus before? I mean, this to me is like a whole new layer of credibility that you have. Yeah, if you can maybe even share a message with Jessie from the past, what would that look like? I think now it has become clear that I need to be aligning my deep interest for this space with my talent, which is communicating. And at the beginning of the glucose thing journey, I thought I was going to build a tech company. I thought I'm going to make like a product that is going to talk to a glucose monitor and it is going to be a tech thing because I came from Silicon Valley. So I thought that is what you did when you had an idea. You made a tech company, you raised $1 million and you made a tech company. Like I was formatted. And now through this book, I have realized that is actually not for me. That is not what I want to do. I do not really want to be a tech CEO. I'm a communicator. I want to make content. I want to make media. So I want to do this on social media through a book. I want to make documentaries. I want to make podcasts. I want to do conferences where people meet up. You know, that that is what I love. And so it took me a while to get there. This whole journey has been such a journey in just understanding myself that now it is about doing what I love, which is explaining science to people. All right. And what is the next step? Well, obviously getting this book, stocking the shelves, promoting it, doing all kinds of interviews, being on all kinds of podcasts, talking about it. But will there ever be a part 2 of this book? Actually, okay, I cannot believe I am saying this. Yeah, no, I can tell you, I have a very clear idea for what the next book might be. Is it glucose related? Yeah, of course it is glucose related, but actually, I think after this sorry, I should not say glucose thing. You are right. This glucose revolution has really taken off. One thing that I am super passionate about is mental health. And through writing this book about glucose, I discovered, that these symptoms I had been feeling for years of splitting of anxiety were actually my body telling me that I was not processing stress well, that I was not evacuating the stress well enough from myself. So now I have taken on right? I shake a bunch. I spend time alone. We shook before this podcast. We shook before this podcast. Yeah, you have to shake before a podcast now. I am going to do it with all my podcast. And so I become really interested in like, how do you process these emotions and these feelings that you have? Because now I am in such a good place because I understood, thanks to the book process, these mental health issues and how to solve them. So that has been really wonderful and how real they were. even as, I mean, you have been healthy for quite some time, and not only have you been healthy, but you have had the knowledge of health and science and how to apply science to improve your health. I knew about food, about food. I knew about food really well. Like I was an expert in food, but I did not understand mental health yet. I was suffering from a lot of mental health problems since I was 19. And it is what I would love to do eventually is maybe like what I did to glucose. Do it also to mental health in a way because it is so important. Like now I meet the content of mental health, making it more exciting, more accessible, more exactly. And actually, in this book, there is a lot of my story, mental health. And yes, I think my talent is in taking science, making it accessible and exciting for people to try. So maybe there is a way in which I can also dive into, emotional eating and anxiety and mental health and teach people about it in the same way as I did with glucose. But I was okay from a food perspective, but like I was actually not okay. Like I was always scared of being alone for a decade, like really difficult for me to just look in the mirror without splitting. It was all around me. I thought about it every day, the tarantula thing. The existential questions, like I was not really okay. I still had this underlying stuff that would come up time and time again, and I did not understand how and why and what to do to fix it. So now I feel like I actually know, like if I feel split, I am like, okay, I know what this means, that there is some stress somewhere that I am not dealing with. So either I need to go move my body, shake, take a bath, do something breathing, or I need to spend time alone and reconnecting to my energy and all this stuff. So it has been a beautiful journey. So thank you to this book for that. It was also the hardest year of my life, but I think it is so writing this book was really therapeutic for you, and it really put you in a position where you had to reflect in certain way. Yes, and through. And even I mean this subject is related to so much regarding mental health. A lot of people suffer mental health because their glucose is a mess. Their eating habits are a mess. They do not know how to listen to their bodies, their cravings, their emotions. I cannot believe it. You did it. It is crazy. You handed me this book the other day, and I just, wow, Jessie, you have, it is crazy. It is crazy. And, it is not just me. It is like, of course, my agents and publishers and editors and the wonderful illustrator, full team of people. And something I want to highlight here that this blew my mind. Early praise for Glucose Revolution, the best practical guide for managing glucose to maximize health and longevity by David Sinclair. Yeah, Jessie, okay. So can I start the story by getting the quote, how you get? Yes. So my editors were like, okay, so now it is time where you have to get the blurbs, like quotes from people. And they were like, just email people that you admire and just ask them. I was like, okay. So I never thought it would I mean, I emailed a bunch of people who did not answer, let us be clear. But when I emailed David, I had actually known that he had been following my Instagram for a year, so I emailed him and I was like, "Hi David, I wrote this book. I was wondering if you would be interested in reading it and endorsing it because your work is such a great inspiration and you are just so amazing, etc." And I was like, "Oh, so it is so embarrassing to ask for this stuff." And then I get an email back from him, very short email, like, of course, big fan, give me a few weeks. Like, wow, Jessie, wow, yeah, wow. And how did that feel? I mean, if you could reflect back on, let us say that emotion, the emotion of, okay, UK, us is here on my side. I mean, how does it, do you feel like you are almost desensitized to this now? Like, do you? No, because when I see your content, I mean, I love it. Everyone that follows me knows about you. They I posted a story with the other day and everyone was like, "Oh my god, it is the glucose goddess." Like okay, what is the next step? Like are you okay to settle with this or do you want to keep taking it? The thing that keeps me going. So it is two things. It is this idea of these people that I meet that do not know what is happening when they are eating and they suffer, and I want to help them. But also, there is this thing inside me of like every day I want to make content that is better than yesterday. Like, I look at my Instagram now and I am like, oh, it is so bad. Are you kidding me? I am like, oh, it is so bad, you kid. You realize that I look up to you as like you are like way up here as a content creator. I appreciate that. And I think what makes me good is the fact that I just want to keep doing better. So, no, I'm not at all finished. But what is interesting is that I do not have that relationship to this book. Like every time I look at this book, I am like, oh, yeah, baby, like this is amazing. It is amazing when I look at the Instagram. I'm like, I need to do a post about this and about that. And this post was not very clear and I need to improve it in this or that way. But this, I am so proud of it. Like there is no part of me that thinks I could have done better. It is really just like, I am so proud of it. Do you think that the audience that you have on Instagram is going to be very different from the audience that you are going to gather through this book alone? Like if no one knows about you, they somehow come across this book and they would to read it. Like how do you distinguish the two audiences? So the way I think about it is that my Instagram community, they are the first people, and I think they are going to buy this book for their parents, for their aunts, for their grandparents, for their coworker. It is like this is a tool for everybody on Instagram to take and give to share. Because not everybody is on Instagram, not everybody understands how to use it. It is a different type of content. This is a tool for everybody to spread the message in a way. So I hope that the audience of this book will be different than my Instagram audience. I hope this will reach people who do not have social media. I hope this will reach, generations that do not even know what Instagram is. Like this is supposed to go where Instagram cannot go. Wow, and how many languages are this is currently available in? So none of them are available in, but we sold the book to 10 countries. So it is in 10 languages coming out in 2022. This is insane, by the way. So we have English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, Italian, German, Japanese, Korean, Dutch. I know I am forgetting some. And you did not have to edit this. Like when it comes to when is the languages come in, is that once you have done the whole process of like editing the manuscripts do work, that is when the translation comes in. Yes, but here's the thing is just translating for the sake of translating is one thing, but actually translating with the sock of doing the actual science justice is a complete different thing. I mean, everything has to be switched around according to what is appropriate in that country. Just a matter, this word means this. It is like, oh, it is a total art, and all the publishers that we, sold this project to, they have in-house amazing translators who take it, and that is their job, right? To make sure that it makes sense in Spanish, Spanish in Spain, but Spanish also in Mexico, in Argentina, like they are going to change it for every different country. And what is cool is that because I am French, I am actually now reviewing the French translation because a person translator has taken this English book and turned it into French. And it is amazing. I was like, wow, this is so cool. Why did you not write in French version? Oh, I cannot. I mean, I left France when I was 16, so I cannot even write a business email in French, really. Oh, yeah, it is impossible. I am just like, dear, blah, blah, blah. Would you mind to the such? I do not know how to write formal French. I do not know how to write formal French English. English is so much easier for me because all my adult life I was in UK and US and working in English. So it is much easier for me to write English. And what is something that you did not mention in this book that you wish more people knew about you or about the book itself? Oh, well, the first chapters in the book are me talking about my personal story, which is very new because I have not really talked about it in detail on Instagram. So it goes into my accident, the beginning of the movement, the struggles I faced, how I created the concept of the graphs, etc. So this is a very new thing that I am talking about and exposing. Yeah, you do not get very personal on your Instagram. No, I think I want to be human, and I really want to share the message, but the Instagram is not about where I go on holiday or like what I do in the evenings. Like I want to create a certain distance in a way just to protect myself too. The Instagram is about science, like, I translate science. It is not about me. I am not on it to be a famous influencer, like, I am on it for the science. But I know that by bringing in my personality and, my videos and images and stuff, I can become more relatable, and so the science becomes more accessible. Yeah, there is a sort line between making it more accessible and having your sort of spin on it, but also showing people that you are a real person and that this is working for you as much as you hope that it works for somebody else. So I kind of show like 25% of myself, and then there's a whole bunch of me that people do not know, and I am okay with that, right? Yeah, well, Jesse, if there is anything else you want to share with the audience before we embark, I think I just want to say that this book is for anybody who does not wake up in the morning feeling amazing. Wow. And I think that is a lot of people, unfortunately. Yeah, it really can help anyone. And the more I have delved into the science, the more clear it has become that these hacks help everyone, regardless of the symptoms you're experiencing, from cravings to depression to infertility to type 2 diabetes. Like, this stuff is really important and it works and it heals. Yeah, and you will notice at the beginning of the book, also, I have testimonials from the Glucose Goddess community on Instagram. So I interviewed many people on Instagram for this book and their stories and their quotes and their testimonials and examples of how to use the hacks in their lives are all throughout this book. So thank you to everybody for contributing. Thank you so much, Jesse. And I will tell you that even with everything that I know about physiology and about nutrition and psychology, it is like even when I have a large plate of XYZ food, because my family is having a late dinner, I wake up the next day and as large as the plate was, I am starving. And I think most people have understood why that happens so much about their lives would just be like streamlined when it comes to their health, the way that they feel, their mood, their emotions, because that is because you had a big glucose spike and then a crash. And in the morning, you are starving. I feel like if more people knew just how something that they ate put them in a hypoglycemic state because of the insulin response automatically, they would adjust everything about their nutrition to avoid feeling hungry for no reason. Yeah, and that is what I talk about, like the most powerful thing. But this book is full of power, full of knowledge, and I cannot wait for the people tuning in to dig into it. So thank you so much for joining us today for doing this. Oh, it is my pleasure, and hope you guys enjoy the book. Bye 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 bye.